The Scottish Book Trust is a taxpayer-funded propaganda agency, and we propose cutting their government funding to £0 per annum. We'll get on to the rampant politicisation later, but let's look at the Scottish Book Trust in general. The government funding, by the looks of it, is not entirely clear, but it looks like it's over £2 million a year, and that's 90% of their income. So if they want to carry on with their other funding, that's fine, but nothing from the taxpayer. Right, the mission of the Scottish Book Trust is to encourage reading. They hold events around the country, give away books in schools and other contexts. Right, encouraging reading, is that a good thing? Yes, but I really don't think the Scottish Book Trust's approach works. Okay, what does work to encourage reading, particularly with young people? School libraries, English lessons in schools, people go and see a film, buy the book of it, see books in shops, community libraries. I think those things work. But does anyone really start reading because the Scottish Book Trust chose a book for them and gave them a copy of it? I really don't think so. So this money that's saved by defunding the Scottish Book Trust could be used to improve libraries in schools and community libraries across Scotland. One of their stories they promote, we'll come to this later, is about a group fighting the closure of a local library. So if the Scottish Book Trust is so concerned about fighting for the existence of local libraries, they can make a huge contribution to that by giving up their own funding. Mind you, I say local libraries are a good thing. Our local library at Oxgangs, a couple of years ago, my wife went in, there was a display of homoerotic fetish pornography there for everyone to come in of any age. Obviously, if libraries are going to do that, we can do without that. But in general, community libraries are a good thing. Right, let's now move on to the blatant political bias shown by the Scottish Book Trust. I mean, for a start, as with so many government-funded agencies in Scotland, they promote Nicola Sturgeon. They put on events that give her the opportunity to present her political vision in a positive light. And the Scottish Book Trust comes out with phrases like this: fight evil, read books. Now, anyone who thinks about that for a moment will realise that that just is a silly thing to say. Fight evil, read books. What books? Mein Kampf? What they mean is, fight evil by reading our books. And we'll tell you what evil is, and then you can join us in our leftist, progressive, social justice political campaign. Any sign of balance at all? None. Now, this is Scotland, so the whole staff and funders of this organisation cannot see the blatant, rampant bias on virtually every page of their website and in everything they produce, because they live inside the Scottish establishment bubble. Now, I would guess that the staff of this organisation actually make it irredeemable. To remove the bias, you'd have to replace probably most of the staff. It's institutional progressivism. Right, let's look at some of the evidence for this politicisation. Let's have a look at their top 21 recommended books. What are they about? Number 1, racism. Number 2, sexism. Number 3, escaping a repressive regime, North Korea. A lot of Christians are persecuted there and have stories to tell, but they don't pick one of those. It's a human rights campaigner that they choose. 4, feminism. 5, poverty. 6, racism. 7, transgender issues. 8, AIDS. 9, feminism. 10, immigrants. 11, drug addiction. 12, black activism. 13, anti-capitalist. 14, LGBT. 15, pro-Palestine. 16, pro-immigrant. 17, transgender. 18, feminist. 19, criticism of the justice system. 20, defence of being overweight. 21, autobiographical, but includes story of violence against women. So by my count, about 18 out of 21 have got a clear social justice, progressive, liberal, leftist political agenda. Now, not everything in those books will be bad. Maybe not every book is bad. Most of it would be. I would disagree with most of it. But the rampant bias is obvious. And yet the people putting these lists together, as far as they're concerned, is just perfectly normal. How about a few books with this sort of title? Building Up a Successful Business. Why Marriage Matters. My Adventures Fighting for Our Country in the Royal Navy. Immigration, a Balanced Debate. I Changed Sex and Now Regret It. Israel and Palestine. Hearing Both Sides. Men and women are different. What's the problem? Now, to see a book like that, to the people who put these lists together, that would just seem completely and utterly ridiculous. We're so conditioned in Scotland to expect that this bias is going to be there. It's easy just to take it for granted that this is the official line that we get. So for Book Week 2018, the Scottish Book Trust has published this book, and they're giving them away. I ordered one. You can't order one, actually. The minimum you can order is 25. So I had to get 25 of them. I'll try to give the rest of them away. They'll be in schools and libraries and all sorts of other places as well. Someone drew my attention to it because they said the cover has this symbol which is associated with communism. Well, hardly surprising if something vaguely related to the Scottish government. It's probably propaganda, but let's have a look at it. So it's about rebellion. Now, there's a simple theory with rebellion, and that is that rebelling against bad things is good, but rebelling against good things is bad. This book doesn't seem to quite get that distinction. It just seems to have a vague feeling that being a rebel is a good thing. So let's have a look at some of the stories we've got. Let's have a quick flip through. Right, first story, little quote. I was in a Catholic school where the writing style was as old-fashioned as their ideas. Those Catholics, eh? What are they like? And the teacher's nun was a real monster. Right, so next story, got a girl going out. Mum says, you're not going out dressed like that. And she's going to a concert by the band Hell Bent Bitches. I can't have Rachel's mother seen you dressed like that. What will she think? She sits in the next pew and she's very good friends with the minister's wife. These Christians, they're such hypocrites, aren't they? They're so narrow-minded. But anyway, it ends with the mum saying, you're not going out of the house like that. And she sneaks out in any case. Right, that's a story there. Right, the brownie. Right, the brownie promise. I promise that I will do my best to do my duty to God. But then I had to promise loyalty to the Queen I didn't believe in. So she crossed her fingers behind the back. So a good bit of republicanism creeping in there as well. Next one, a Ravenscraig picture. That's about a Polish person in Scotland. I won't go into the details of that story. The next one's in Gaelic. Then we've got a translation. Something to do with the miners' strike. Right, council announced they were going to close the swimming pool. So I had many hours on the picket line defending this swimming pool, stopping the police coming in to take it over so it could be shut down. That I knew there was no chance the police could succeed. So a big showdown with the nasty police who are trying to enforce the decision of the council to close down the swimming pool. All good left-wing stuff. Right, what are we on next? Oh, Wisconsin. Right, this is a story about a class who have a teacher from America who comes over. The teacher puts up a picture of the Republican President Richard Nixon, and this teacher basically seems very unpleasant, trying to indoctrinate them into all sorts of unpleasant extreme right-wing views. She even says things like communism is evil. Anyway, the kids have had enough, so eventually they get this picture of the Republican president and smash it. Say this is going to be in lots of schools, so obviously encouraging that sort of behaviour in schools. I assume that's good, healthy rebellion. Next one, none of your business. About a drag nun. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence were rebels at the time of devastation of the gay community in the 70s in San Francisco. The Catholic Church had turned their backs on the suffering of AIDS victims. I don't believe that. And there's nowhere else for them to seek comfort, apart from people dressing up as nuns, mocking the idea of sexual purity, basically. There's no better way to draw attention to the crime still committed against the LGBTQ plus community than to turn up to Grampian's first Pride as a sister, dressed as a nun, in other words, and explains how very rebellious that is. Right, next one, the right to read. The council decided to close the village library. So people protested because they've got a right to read. And they got the kids involved as well, because they wanted to show our children that you must fight for what you believe in against the council cuts. Again, all good standard left-wing fare. What do we get to next? Right, Rebel. This woman's an author. In the book industry, men get paid more than women. So what does she do about it? She poses for a picture topless. That'll show him. All right, this is about a young bloke who was shackled by the chains of religion, but then he threw off these chains. I stopped at the convenience store, threw my Bible in the nearest bin, brought my first packet of cigarettes, liberated from the constraints of Christianity, embarking in a life of freedom and smoking and lung cancer. It's a heartwarming tale. Right, what have we got? The language in this book's often as bad as it could possibly be. I say, it's circulated in schools. most teachers, or all teachers, I imagine librarians, will just think, yeah, this is suitable for kids, just put it there. If the kids actually use that language to the teachers, then I'd imagine that they'd suddenly be unhappy, but they've really got only themselves to blame if they're sticking this stuff under the kids' noses to read. What have we got next? A bunch of blokes, they end up crying. Sometimes boys do cry. Oh yeah, very PC. What next? Another one with a drag queen. 2 stories by drag queens. As a drag queen, there's a sense of duty. We're a strong voice in the campaign for LGBT rights. So this drag queen, do you know what he did? She, whatever, did. It's so brave. It's so daring. They wrote to a politician about LGBT rights in Russia. I mean, you're really putting your life on the line doing that, aren't you? You're really going against the grain and risking everything. Wow, what a rebel. What do we get to next? Right, just read you the last line of this story. Robbie, my name's Robbie. I don't want to be her. So, a transgender story. I mean, you could have guessed. I mean, I didn't really need to tell you that. You know what's going to be that. Then this next one. The health visitor said, are you trying to cause gender confusion? Right, what was going on? What was this mother doing? Here's the mother speaking. Be yourself, dear loved one. It's the only way. And his wee sister wears the pink socks now, and also the blue. Wow. That's so rebellious and radical, putting blue and pink socks on the baby. Wow, it's just the cutting edge of daring rebellion. Next one. 2 gay boys walk down the street holding hands, and they're saying how brave they are doing that. And what have we got next? Rule followers are just that. Followers, not leaders. That's just stupid. Again, is that what you want kids to be reading? Well, they don't believe in rules in schools in any case. They're just guidelines, friendly guidelines. The last bit, we've got a bit by Professor Dame Sue Black. And it's a story of a discovery she made. A scientific discovery. That's great, you know, well done to her. But it's obvious why it's in the book. It's in the book because she's a woman and they wanted a woman scientist in it. Because they've just got to tick every PC box under the sun. So there's the book. So according to the Scottish Book Trust, being a rebel involves endorsing the state's political agenda. It's like in the Soviet Union. To be a good revolutionary, it wasn't to try to stage a revolution. It was to endorse the current government. So the sort of activism they're encouraging here is for people to fight to make the governments do the sort of things that they want to do in any case. And obviously that's just the sort of activism that the government wants to encourage. So in Scotland they do. And one way they do that is by funding the Scottish Book Trust. Right, you can see now links to other videos we've got on freedom of speech. There's also a playlist about indoctrination in schools and one about feminism. Hope you enjoy those as well. We're a political party. Do join us. There's a link below, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks for watching.